Now, Chairman and CEO of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has warned that the ongoing Middle East crisis could force Nigeria and other African countries to adopt COVID-era work from home restrictions if the conflict does not de-escalate. Dangote gave the warning on Monday after meeting with President Bola Tinubu at his Ikoyi residence in Lagos, expressing deep concern about the economic impact of oil price volatility. And warned that Africa would pay a disproportionate price for a crisis in which the continent has no involvement. Let's take a listen to Dangote this morning.
From part of the world, volatility in the oil sector, and the effect on Nigeria and other parts of the world. What does this mean, really?
Well, it means quite a lot. We don't have much to do with it, but the world is a global village, and it definitely will affect us, unfortunately, but we pray this situation will be sorted out. It's not going to escalate. If it doesn't de-escalate, we'll end up paying big prices, like what I said earlier on to CNN. If you look at it today, Africa is very busy paying debt, and putting this again on top of us is going to add a lot of hardship on people, on the government, on the people, on everybody, for something that we have no really any involvement in it. If you look at it now, when you talk about energy affects almost everything, and it's not only energy. Some people will try and take a chance and say, this is an opportunity, so let me make money. So if this thing doesn't de-escalate, it is going to keep going up and up and up. And governments cannot really now go and add salaries also. So people will really, really feel the hinge. People who are now doing, barbers, people who are doing bread, people who have industries, who have to power their own generator. You can see in some countries today what they've done, they ask everybody to work from home, because they cannot, I think Indonesia also, they say no, only go to work 4 days a week, and they will look at the situation. If it doesn't improve, they will ask everybody not to go to work anymore. We will do like that time of COVID, where people will now go and work from home. So I pray, and we all need to pray that this thing de-escalates. If it doesn't de-escalate, normally we in Africa, we don't have any reserves in terms of savings or in terms of business. So people normally go out and look for money for the next day or for the even same day, some of them. If they don't work that day, they won't eat. So I think really we just need all hands on deck to pray that this thing comes to an end.
Well, there are key things which Dangote mentioned while speaking with newsmen. But similarly, President Bola Tinubu has cited continued Middle East crisis as the major reason why inflation is currently increasing in Nigeria and affecting businesses. He said this while speaking with governors during an emergency meeting in Lagos. Let's also take a listen to President Bola Tinubu this morning.
You are all doing well, but you can do better. Caring for the vulnerable. I know this Middle East crisis will elicit inflation, will affect our purchasing power, the labor union and others will be gearing to ask us to support them because of the effect of the Middle East war and prices at the pumps, resulting in transportation problems and high prices. Even though the chairman had said there is no need for policy discussions, we should rejoice. I'm glad you have something to bite. My condolences to Hashim Shetima, like what you did, return immediately to Bornu and collectively give a message of sympathy and condolence to our people there.
Well, the world is suffering immensely from the crisis in the Middle East, which experts have said could lead to the Third World War if care isn't taken. In Nigeria, inflation is hitting the streets already, with the price of fuel increasing more than 4 times in the last 3 weeks. Can Nigerians truly survive this new wave of plague that is hitting the world? NLC, Abson, NECA are all complaining massively that the price of things is now unbearable for them. I don't know if we have the right answers, but let's take a look at this. Samson and Ifoma, you're welcome to the show. Few weeks ago, we started this conversation about the Middle East crisis, and some of us here supported Donald Trump and his moves, right? And some people still support him, but I don't know what the strength of their support is right now, because we are not directly involved in the crisis in any way. But according to Dangote, the price of Brent crude is sold to him at the international benchmark, and that is the reason why that's why fuel price in Nigeria has gone up, because they are selling it to him based on the international benchmark, right? That's number one. Now we can see that the price of fuel has controlled everything in Nigeria, and everything you were telling us this morning while on your way, that everyone is in their house, no one is driving their cars anymore. Well, Samson, because we are part of those who held sway for Trump. Yes, yes. So I'm going to start with you. You can see that we are suffering it now, right now, despite not being involved. Has your position changed? What do you think of this pressure?
My position still hasn't changed, by the way. My position hasn't changed. What we're seeing right now is what we're experiencing right now is a lack of commitment on the part of Trump's allies. Now, we're not even going into that one. We're talking about the fact that we're talking about how we can mitigate the effects of this thing on our own selves. We have a government which is responsible, right? That is responsible enough, or should be responsible enough. Now, what are the options for Nigerians to go about not entirely solving it, because there's very little Nigeria can do to solve it right now. It's only to cushion the impact on Nigerian citizens. That's what counts right now. Now, we keep hearing Dangote talking about how he has to still import more petrol. Do you understand? How he has to, not petrol, but crude oil.
Crude oil, yeah.
Do you understand? The problem is NNPC gives him about 5 deliveries in a day, whereas he needs like 12. Now, I still don't understand why it is like that, but I do know that the 5 deliveries he gets, the rest that he doesn't get, gets exported, gets sold out, right? And then back then, when licenses had not been suspended, some of them go out to be refined and then brought back to us. Okay, but now that licenses have been suspended, now the deliveries that Dangote doesn't get, how about instead of us exporting, because we keep talking about, there's going to be a high windfall, 30 trillion naira, but I'm telling you, man, the crunch of high energy prices in the international market right now is such that even that 30 trillion naira that we've been screaming about. Oh, it's a windfall. It's part of the benefits of this whole thing for Nigeria. May not even do so much. May not be sufficient
But there are
enough.
countries who have put in place palliatives. Okay, I think just yesterday I saw the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde, putting out I think 10,000 naira
Exactly.
for workers so that they can be for transport for workers so that they can be able to go to work and all of that. And even in other countries like South Korea, for instance, they are heavily impacted because they are a major importer. We've seen Indonesia, we've seen Thailand, we've seen Japan, the likes of
China.
Vietnam and China, all bringing palliatives to cushion the effect of this, Middle East crisis. Should our government do the same thing?
Now, see,
our
Praise,
case is unique and unique.
Yes, in fact, our case is unique in the sense that we are amongst the countries that produce crude oil. Okay, we are not under direct attack by Iran. Now, Iran has been shelling its neighbors in the Gulf country, in the Gulf region, Qatar, Bahrain. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, these are all producing countries. Now, as it stands, what we're experiencing, Russia, for example, is an oil-producing nation, right? Now, Russia is not complaining about this crunch as much as Nigeria or most of those other countries are complaining about. They do, but not to the level that we do. Do you know why? Because presently the war.
Are you saying that the Russians involved in, they are still involved in the war with Ukraine?
Hold on, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Now, all I'm saying is, Russian energy cost is up, of course, but not to the level that we experience it globally. And the reason is that they are presently involved in a war with Ukraine.
Okay.
Now, that in itself is causing them to consume a whole lot that they cannot even rely on their own so much. Yet they still do rely on theirs to an extent because, by the way, they still supply European countries, by the way. But then the thing is, they are still, this is how the present tension affects them in the Middle East. The fact that over time, they had been relying on cheap oil supply from Iran. This is where it affects them. If it were not, if Russia had not embroiled itself in the conflict in Ukraine, Russia would not have been complaining about these crunches as most countries do. Now, what am I driving towards? The fact that the same level of sufficiency that Russia presently has is the same level of sufficiency Nigeria could have had if our leaders had been focused enough in developing our own oil industry to the level of sufficiency. Now, it's so funny that Dangote would be complaining about 5 deliveries of crude oil in a day. Yet, Dangote's refinery is situated in a country that is an oil-producing country. Because the fact that we're experiencing this crunch like this, it's because we do not even if we have any oil reserves at all, then it's not properly being dispensed. Of which this present situation now is a huge indicator that we probably didn't even have any oil reserves anywhere. Now, see, the world is so interconnected now. What happens in one country may feel like you guys are thousands of miles away from each other, but it will still affect you somehow. Now, this is what I want the Nigerian government to understand. That's what we keep talking about. Thinking for the long term. Thinking beyond your administration. You're thinking for Nigeria's benefit, not thinking for the benefit of your administration.
That is where corruption start biting it.
Exactly. So now, for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, other European countries, even though they were not attacked directly by Russia, they started making contingency plans. France, very far away from Russia, started already preparing its citizens for war, delivering pamphlets, telling them that in case these are the subway stations, you should go and hide, just in case. But even so, I was wondering, like, wow, France, you guys are thousands of miles away from Russia and Ukraine. How is this affecting you people? Denmark was doing the same thing. Germany was doing the same thing. Do you understand? Even though by all indications, I didn't see any real military threats to these countries, yet they were thinking ahead, just in case, because you never can tell what might happen.
So the problem now is that we are not thinking
Nigeria
ahead.
is lacking foresight. That's why we're experiencing. When I drew parallels with what's obtainable in Russia, when I drew parallels with what's happening in Russia, Russia's energy situation right now, I was trying to say that Nigeria could also be in that state as Russia. If Russia had not involved itself with Ukraine, Russia would have been better off right now, presently. And I think Nigeria could also have been better off if Nigeria had thought ahead.
Nigerians are lamenting the high price of commodities in the market. In fact, the latest inflation report revealed that food inflation increased by a certain percentage, and that is not good at all, because we don't know what the next MBS reports would look like. Now, transporters, commuters, even the everyday citizen are lamenting, and so we are calling for the federal government to, put in incentives to cushion the effect of, this crisis in the Middle East that has, thrown everyone into disarray. Well, can the federal government actually make that possible? We leave that on the desk of Mr. President.